Greetings travelers, and welcome to Azeroth, and another installment of our adventure through the world of Warcraft, looking for all of its hidden secrets and environmental Easter eggs. Today we're headed back to the homeland of the humans to explore another part of the capital city that has become one of the most iconic locations of this franchise, Stormwind City. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the Mage Quarter, headquarters of the magical members of the Alliance. There is simply too much of the city to cover all at once in a timely manner, so let's dive into the Stormwind Mage Quarter's secrets and Easter eggs. Hey there, my name is Lee, and welcome to Full Motion Videos, where we cover the lore, secrets, Easter eggs, and smaller stories of your favorite science fiction, fantasy, and superhero franchises, ranging from Warcraft to Star Wars to The Witcher. If that sounds like your thing, why not subscribe, and while you're down there, let me know what worlds and quests you want explored in the future. And now with that bit of shameless self-promotion out of the way, let's get started. Let's begin things somewhere I'm sure most of us have visited by this point if you're still playing the game, the trading post. There are a lot of cool little environmental details built into this thing, even if you don't count the displays showing what's currently on sale. Under the main tent, you'll find a bunch of multicolored foam toy swords, what seems to be the invention of the beer hat underneath a fishbowl that is comically too small for this poor little fish inside, food and water left out for whatever battle pet is available for adoption, and so much more. Additionally, several named characters from the franchise will stop by here. I've personally seen Flynn Fairwind and Maximilian of Northshire myself, and oh my god, I cannot wait to make a video about Maximilian. Over to the right, you'll find a wagon being unpacked. Beside it, there's a crate full of Murloc plushes, a massive keg of ale that's been tapped so the workers can get a drink whenever they like, and the large portrait of a dwarf that I feel like I should recognize but don't immediately. Any of you guys know who this is? It feels like it's an important character, or maybe I'm just dumb. Inside the wagon, along with clutter you'd expect, there's another portrait of a classic-looking human, a la Warcraft 1. A tankard of ale ready to be consumed, presumably filled from the keg, and a hammock where I'm guessing the worker Sam Korf must spend his nights sleeping. On the hammock is a book with a human kissing the wrist of a forsaken woman, though her hand has been broken off. This must be a romantic comedy. Oh, and before we move on, out back at the new stable showing off the mounts in rotation, you'll find Stablekeeper Valerian. This name is pretty standard fantasy fare, but it could be a nod to the long-running Valerian and Laureline comic books, adapted a couple years ago into Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. In the canals beside the trading post, here on your map, you'll find the Academy of Arts and Sciences, a sort of miniature library full of magical books and mystical tomes. Inside, you'll find Mazin Macnadir and Acolyte Delis. Like so many other NPCs, they were the subject of quests in Classic and Vanilla, but are no longer used and are now just here for flavor these days. Also, weirdly, Macnadir is one of the few humans in the Warcraft franchise that uses an apostrophe in his name, a common trope in other fantasy media, so that's neat. Right outside, here on your map, you'll find the chef Robbie Flay and his sous chef John Casper. First of all, I love their little cooking area and how full of character it is. Flour and grain, meat and fruits, and a stew almost boiling over. In case you were unaware, both of these characters are references to real-world chefs from the reality TV series Iron Chef. Robbie Flay is obviously named after the iconic Bobby Flay, while John Casper's reference is a little bit more obscure. He used to be named Barrio Matali, a reference to the chef Mario Batali. I'm not sure why they changed his name, maybe likeness rights? Either way, neat. Nearby, inside the Scribe of Stormwind, here on your map, you'll find the inscription supplier Stanley McCormick, who will offer players what they need for the inscription profession. This character may be a sly reference to the animated series South Park. His name is sort of an amalgamation of two of its main characters, Stan Marsh and Kenny McCormick. South Park famously had an episode about World of Warcraft. It's one of the franchise's better installments in my opinion, so it makes sense that there'd be at least a few references like this throughout the world. In the northwestern entrance of the Mage Quarter, here on your map, you'll find a sign pointing to a different part of the city, only this sign still reads, The Park. Stormwind used to have a city park that was destroyed during the Cataclysm when Deathwing attacked the city. That means this sign hasn't been changed in over a decade. An easy mistake to make, no one ever goes here, and the developers at Blizzard have way more important things to worry about, but this is funny nonetheless. If you're interested, you can still visit the park in Classic. Further into the Mage Quarter, here on your map, you'll find the tailoring shop Duncans Textiles. Just like with other clothing merchants in the city, the room is full of a lot of character, but what I'm interested in here is what isn't here, at least anymore. In Classic and Vanilla, this shop used to be the home of an NPC named Clavicus Navingham, a quest giver and quartermaster. He was removed after the Cataclysm, but interestingly showed up again in Stormwind Harbor during the Legion invasion. I couldn't immediately find him again, so I'm not sure if he's still there, so this might be one of the only characters removed from Classic, re-added, and then re-removed. Tragic. Nearby, inside the Alchemy Needs shop, here on your map, you'll find the Herbalism Supplier Eldraeth. Now, she's been in the game since Classic and Vanilla, but what I'm interested in? Look at her face. During Shadowlands, her model was updated with some of the new race customizations for Night Elves, including a burned face, implying that she was scarred on Teldrassil during the burning. But here's the interesting thing. She's been in Stormwind since Classic, so this implies a pretty interesting story. Did she go back to Teldrassil during the Fourth War to help in some way, only to be caught up in the attack? Or was she burned elsewhere? At this point, it's a story we just have to make up for now. A little further along the path, here on your map, you'll find Colin Moren. As is shockingly common in areas like Stormwind, he used to be a quest giver in Vanilla and Classic, sending players to the Stone Talon Mountains in Kalimdor, literally a whole world away. Now he's just here doing nothing. I hope they find something else to do with these NPCs like him in the future. It's just kinda sad that he's just hanging out here. Along another path, here on your map, you'll find the trinket shop Arcane Curios, run by Cheris Ysarian and her pet rabbit Fizzles. The shop has a ton of atmosphere full of potions and blades and skulls of beasts foreign to Stormwind. Though there's not much going on here anymore, this shop and its inhabitants used to be the source of a lot of speculation in the community. Gossip text from a family that occasionally visits the shop suggests that Fizzles is actually a mage that is permanently stuck in a polymorph. How true that actually is uncertain. There's also been a lot of discussion around Ysarian. Her name and green robes led many to believe that she was actually a green dragon in disguise, perhaps even Ysera herself. Unfortunately, with the ongoing Dragonflight expansion, that seems unlikely. It's more probable that this was just an Easter egg, a cool name that someone created back in Classic, or a potential storyline that got dropped. Now it's just here as a relic, an arcane curio of years gone by. Further along, here on your map, you'll find the Slaughtered Lamb, a shady tavern that is a lot more than it appears on the surface. Within the basement, you'll find a coven of warlocks and a series of catacombs that snake under the Mage Quarter. Now, admittedly, this area is not much of a secret if you've ever played an Alliance Warlock, especially back in the old days. This is where you would be pointed for training. But if you're a goody two-shoes like me, this wasn't really an area you ever visited. I was legitimately surprised when I saw all of this down here while exploring for this video. Don't be too hard on me though, apparently the guards in Classic and Vanilla also weren't even aware that warlocks were in the city at all, as you see in their text pointing you this way. In retail, they just point you to the training hall in Old Town, which is less fun, but either way, the Slaughtered Lamb and its secret cult of warlocks are now basically here for role-playing flavor and the occasional quest. Still fun. Across the courtyard, here on your map, you'll find the fireworks shop Pyrotechnics. Inside, you'll find Gordon McKellar, the assistant confetti cannon operator for the shop's owner, Darian Singh. First of all, there appears to be a funny glitch with this character. He will sometimes move using the swimming animation, which is hilarious. But why I really wanted to mention him is that he is one of only 2 NPCs in the world that drops a toy known as the Doomsayer's Robes. The other is an Orgrimmar. So basically, if you want this toy, you have to sneak into the opposite faction's city and kill a civilian to get them. But now I also have to wonder why a Pyrotechnician is such a Doomsayer. That's more than a little worrying. In the main courtyard of the Mage Quarter, here on your map, you'll find a couple named Mikey and Lisa Schaefer having a picnic in the grass with their 4 dogs, Emma, Rufus, Bella, and Wiley. Occasionally, the dogs will get the zoomies and run around, which is adorable. Mikey Schaefer is almost surely a reference to Mike Schaefer, a networks and system engineer who worked for Blizzard from 2001 to 2012. Lisa is presumably his real-world partner, and the dogs their real-world pets. Interestingly, these characters weren't added until Battle for Azeroth, long after Schaefer left the company, so I was initially unsure if this reference was even intentional. But Mikey looks so much like the real-world Mike that I think this has to be legit. It's always fun to see employees immortalized like this. Speaking of, elsewhere in the courtyard, here on your map, you'll find Archmage Naka and his partner Linda giving a lesson to many junior mages. You can actually volunteer to help demonstrate the effects of magic, which is amusing. I recommend you check the interaction out for yourself. Naka and Linda are references to real-world people, a senior Blizzard software engineer named Ron Naka and his wife, Linda. Sadly, Ron lost a battle with colon cancer in 2014, and Archmage Naka is one of many tributes to him throughout the game. Much of Naka's gossip text talks about the stability of the universe, how one untested spell could unweave the entire fabric of reality, something that is quite literally true at a systems level. It was the real-world Ron Naka's job to make sure that that didn't happen and the servers running World of Warcraft weren't on fire. Another bit of gossip text he has mentions that to truly understand the artistry of weaving spells, one has to ask themselves how many bunnies they see. And when you understand the meaning of that question, the foundation of the universe will become clear. This is a reference to the fact that Blizzard uses several invisible rabbit mobs as a reference point to source sound effects in the world, a clever design trick. This is a wonderful tribute with a lot of heart and character, and I'm glad it's in the game for us to remember Ron by. On the other side of the courtyard, here on your map, you'll find Archmage Malon. As is so common, this character was a quest giver in Classic and Vanilla and is no longer so. However, Malon still has a role elsewhere in game. His daughter Emmy is part of a quest in Northrend from the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, and after completing that quest, the player will get a letter from Malon, so that's neat. In the reagent shop Essential Components, here on your map, you'll find the owner and reagents vendor Owen Vaughn. There is no doubt in my mind that he is named after two high-profile comedic actors from the mid-2000s, Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn. That or this is a massive coincidence which I just refuse to believe. Wandering all throughout the Mage Quarter, you'll find Eric Lohan hawking drinks for the Blue Recluse Tavern. Funnily enough, he will advertise that you can get free drinks there and tells you to ask him how to get said drinks, only for you to be unable to interact with him at all. False advertisement, I say. He will also occasionally say, "Head over to the Blue Recluse, where everybody knows your name," a reference to the theme song of the sitcom Cheers, which takes place in a bar. At the base of the Wizard's Sanctum, here on your map, three mages named Suzanne, Elisanne Pierce, and Janie Anship will occasionally sit down and talk with one another. There are a lot of lines the three can say, randomized and put together into small conversations. These lines are just packed with references to franchises like Star Wars and Star Trek, but my favorite? One of them asks about crossing the streams. Definitely a nod to the Ghostbusters franchise, and believe me, you do not want to cross the streams. Does anyone remember the old G4 show Cheat? I remember them talking about this years ago when I was first into World of Warcraft and I saw their episode on it. And now every time I see this, that's all I can think of, man. Nostalgia. Sorry, random tangent. Back to the secrets. Inside the Wizard's Sanctum itself, here on your map, you'll find High Sorcerer Andram, an important NPC with a lot of quests, some that remain in the game and some that don't. Andram actually has a history dating back all the way to Warcraft 3. One of the randomly chosen names for the Archmage mob could be Andram, so this might be a legacy character and we don't even realize it. Inside the actual portal room, here on your map, you'll find the Sorceress El Sharin teaching a small class of students. As with so many others, she used to be the subject of a quest in Classic and Vanilla, but is now just here for flavor. More interestingly, however, she's a high elf that has been in-game since the beginning. That means that she used to have one of those super janky old high elf models from before Blood Elves were in the game. They were gnarly looking. Similarly, in the portal chamber, here on your map, you'll find Magin or Dumass, another important and ancient NPC that has been in-game since Vanilla. He also used to be a quest giver, but is now just here for flavor. But interestingly, his most recent quest wasn't removed until Shadowlands for whatever reason. Also, I'm gonna be real, I didn't realize this until recording just now and saying his name out loud. Magin or Dumass sounds a lot like another thing you could call somebody who wasn't very intelligent. And just before we move on, also take note of Jania Cannon, another former quest giver who is now just here for flavor. R.I.P. Behind the Mage Quarter, here almost entirely off the map, you'll find a sort of abandoned camp, a large portal and wild vines growing out of it. There is no one here at this camp, though artifacts, spellbooks, supplies, and the like are still set up here. There's even a griffin in case you want to fly up here, though no flight master to connect to it. So what's going on? Well, this is actually part of the Everbloom dungeon from Warlords of Draenor. During that storyline, the Kirin tried to open another portal to alternate Draenor through the Everbloom, and this is where the final boss fight of that instance takes place. The fact that they also added it into the real-world space is just a great attention to detail. In the Cathedral Square across the city, you will strangely find a rogue trainer within the hollowed halls of the cathedral itself. She is named Reckful, named in honor of the beloved Warcraft streamer who sadly passed away in 2020. If you'd like to learn more about this incredible tribute, check out my video covering the secrets of the Cathedral Square. Or if you'd like to learn more about the lore of the forest surrounding Stormwind, check out my video talking about the story of Elwyn Forrest and how the humans of Warcraft have kind of been living it on easy mode. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time.